This book is the first attempt in any language to present a comprehensive view of the Russian Revolution, arguably the most important event of the century. There is no shortage of surveys of the subject, but they concentrate on the political and military struggles for power over Russia between 1917 and 1920. Seen from the perspective of time, however, the Russian Revolution was a great deal more than a contest for power in one country. What the victors in that contest had in mind was defined by one of its leading protagonists, Leon Trotsky, as no less than overturning the world. By that was meant a complete redesign of state, society, economy and culture all over the world for the ultimate purpose of creating a new human being. These far-reaching implications of the Russian Revolution were not evident in 1917 to 1918, in part because the West considered Russia to lie on the periphery of the civilized world, and in part because the revolution there occurred in the midst of a world war of unprecedented destructiveness. In 1917 to 1918, it was believed by virtually all non-Russians that what had occurred in Russia was of exclusively local importance, irrelevant to them and in any event bound to settle down once peace had been restored. It turned out otherwise. The repercussions of the Russian Revolution would be felt in every corner of the globe for the rest of the century. Events of such magnitude have neither a clear beginning nor a neat end. Historians have long argued over the terminal dates of the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, and the Enlightenment. Similarly, there is no indisputable way to determine the time span of the Russian Revolution. What can be said with certainty is that it did not begin with the collapse of Tsarism in February to March 1917 and conclude with the Bolshevik victory in the Civil War 3 years later. The revolutionary movement became an intrinsic element of Russian history as early as the 1860s. The first phase of the Russian Revolution in the narrow sense of the word, corresponding to the constitutional phase of the French Revolution, 1789 to 1792, began with the violence of 1905. This was brought under control by a combination of concessions and repression, but violence resumed on an even grander scale after a hiatus of 12 years in February 1917, culminating in the Bolshevik coup d'etat of October. After 3 years of fighting against internal and external opponents, the Bolsheviks succeeded in establishing undisputed mastery over most of what had been the Russian Empire. But they were as yet too weak to realize their ambitious program of economic, social, and cultural transformation. This had to be postponed for several years to give the ravaged country time to recover. The revolution was resumed in 1927 to 1928 and consummated 10 years later after frightful upheavals that claimed millions of lives. It may be said to have run its course only with the death of Stalin in 1953, when his successors initiated and carried out, by fits and starts, a kind of counter-revolution from above, which in 1990 appears to have led to a rejection of a good part of the revolution's legacy.